Hello and welcome back to my craft room. Long time no see. I've been a little bit under the weather. I've had a lot of life stuff going on and I just needed a little bit of a break, so sorry I've been a bit AWOL for a while. But I want to crack on and do a bit more with my underwater world. I cannot get over all the beautiful pieces that are being shared in the Facebook group and Discord community. I'm just blown away by them, and I'm sure Viviana is really enjoying seeing them as well. So if you don't know, this is a project which I'm calling my Underwater World Textile Collage, which was inspired by the amazing Viviana Molinares, who you will know from our Facebook group, and she's also in the Discord community. Her textile collage work is absolutely beautiful. She's a painter too, and you can see that she very much does her textile collage with a painterly eye. There's a series of templates that goes along with this project. There's the freebie fish one, which anybody can get hold of free, and there's the underwater world one, which has at the moment got an octopus, a seahorse and a lobster. It's also going to have a turtle and a starfish added in, and if you've already got hold of it, you'll get those updates automatically. They're all available from my Gumroad shop. I'll put a link to it in the description. And it has been lovely to see people using the images. Yeah, I'm just seeing all the different things people have done with them. So many creative ideas about different ways of using fabric and thread and different textile techniques and felting and all kinds of things. It's been so exciting. I've just been too busy with other stuff and too kind of wiped out just recently to actually do very much. Sometimes you just have to stop for a bit, don't you? And as always, whenever I get tired and stuff, I get a bit kind of croaky. I don't think I've got a cold or anything. I'm just like, I just get like this. I get a bit sniffy and croaky. I seem to be running out of space on my desk as always. Let me show you where I've got to and what I'm going to do today. So here's my underwater world. Oh, it's upside down. Doesn't really matter actually. Okay, anyway, so I can't even show it all on camera now all at the same time. The idea is that this will all fold together into a book in the end, and it can be all opened out and viewed as one continuous scene as well. It's starting all kind of colourful and vibrant and full of fantastical creatures at the beginning of the book. By the end of the book, it's going to go a bit dark and meaningful. I'll tell you a bit more about that as I go along. So yeah, I've done a bit more work, I suppose, since I last showed this. Let me just sort of I think I've probably shown all of this, but I still have it looking at other people's as well, how much is other people have been putting into their scenes. I've got more and more ideas I want to try. But yes, I might even layer all of this up a little bit more. We've finished with my kind of barnacle things here and added some big chunky French knots to them. There's little kind of gemstone beads in amongst the folds of this corally creature. I've done a few more of these bullion knot things, but I think I'm going to do even more of that because it's quite good practice for my bullion knots as well. I'm not entirely delighted with how this sea urchin turned out, but it's alright, and I'm still going to build up a bit more here, so I think once they're all together it'll be fine. I want to make some more fishes, definitely, and I want to do some of the kind of shoals of fish I've seen other people doing as well, and I know Viviana loves to do. This is new. I've really enjoyed doing the drizzle stitch and cast on stitch and things, and different kinds of stump work, and this was my first attempt at punta wenaria, or Venetian needle lace. I was very excited that Benjamin I don't know if I'm saying his name right, Crudwig, I don't know how he says his name, but I'll link to him again. I linked him in the last video too. I was very excited that he actually came and had a look and left a comment on that video. Yeah, I'll link to him again because his channel's very inspiring. It's really nice to watch. Yeah, just lots of little details. I've still got more and more layers of detail I want to add here. Oh, what have I just done? Just managed to turn my camera off. Okay, back again. I think I just managed to press something on the mouse by mistake. Let's get the mouse out of the way a bit. I don't think I've done any more to the actual octopus since I last showed him, but there is definitely more to do. Enjoyed adding in this jellyfish, and I've got more different kinds of jellyfish to try as well. The message that I kind of want to put across with this book is that we need to be looking after our oceans better than we are at the moment. So I'm going to start off all light and bright and beautiful, full of beautiful creatures, and I'm going to end up trying to I want to portray the pollution of the oceans, the effect that environmental change is having on the oceans. Viviana was telling me about the red algae that they get in Florida where she lives, and it just kills everything. It kills the underwater life, and you can see pictures as well of coral reefs that are dying, so I'm going to start off with beautiful colourful corals and sea anemones and jellyfish and all that kind of thing, and I want to end up with this kind of going towards, I'll get darker and darker, go towards black and then red, and with the corals, the dead corals, standing out as kind of white, because they look kind of bone white if you look up pictures of dying coral reefs. They're like skeletons. They're like, so I've got this picture in my head of this kind of dark, twinkly black bits of red kind of, I've even already pulled out some fabrics to do it with, kind of murkiness, with perhaps some kind of a message that I'll handwrite and then embroider on it, and then with this kind of framework of dead coral reef. So it sounds a bit depressing. I think it's important. It's an important thing it's an important message. So yeah, that's my plan. Great ambitions, I've got some, last time I did these kind of 3 different ways of using stitching to create dimension. Next time I'm gonna try some different ways of fabric manipulation to create texture and dimension. So I've already done quite a bit of that by, this would be fabric manipulation. So with this, just simple things like, stitching something down like that, but and stitching through it to quilt it and then leaving part of it free, or just taking these pieces and twisting them before stitching the ends down. All of that is kind of fabric manipulation, isn't it? Using the trapunto technique to stuff my octopus, you could call that fabric manipulation. One of the things I want to try though is, I've been looking at this book, and I love how Judith in this book creates these they call them brain corals, by crumpling up velvet and stitching into it. I want to try some of that. You can see here she's crumpled the fabric. Viviana also, I love how she creates jellyfish with kind of tops like this kind of thing that Betty sent me. So Viviana does things like that on the top, but she pleats up velvet and other materials to create the kind of stem of the anemone. So I want to try that. I'm also very inspired by, I had another watch of Christine, of Create and Craft with Christine. She did a coral reef project and she had some beautiful ideas there. I've got this beautiful pile of linens that Man sent to me recently. So Christine has got a lot of this kind of thing, and she took some of these vintage laces and also modern kind of nylon lace. I forgot this one would be appropriate, but I happened to be given this. It was somebody was clearing out their mum's old craft stash, and they gave me these. And it's, I don't normally use nylon lace, but what Christine did with some of this nylon lace was to colour it with, she loves her Inktense blocks as much as I do, and then crumple them up in different ways to create the effect of different types of coral. So I'd like to try some things like that. And of course a lot of these laces and things then could be used as they are and the colours they are to make my kind of coral graveyard, if you like, at the end of the book. This was amongst the piece that Man sent me as well, so I might use some of this if I can bear to cut into it. I could lay this over other colours and stuff it to create sea creatures. That's another thing that Christine did quite a bit. I will link to Christine in the description. And yeah, I could crumple up some of the edges. It is a bit kind of, it's difficult to make yourself cut into beautiful pieces like this, but you know, to be fair, I'm never going to use this. We're not going to use this many these days. We don't use these doilies as doilies, do we? But if we can do something else beautiful with them, then I think that's fine. And this colourful one would fit in beautifully at this stage of my book, so I'm going to planning a bit of that next time. This was also sent to me by Mand. This is a beautiful sheer, I don't know if it is actually, it feels like silk to me, scarf, and I was delighted to see that there was a torn hole in it, which means it's okay for me to cut it up and use it because I think this would be quite good. Yeah, look, you can see it's got some damage to it, so it means it's okay for me to cut up. And I think this will be nice when it comes to getting towards the stage of the darker end of the book. You can see that if I crumpled this up, I could create the same kind of idea of the brain coral, but it's dying. So yeah, I've been doing quite a lot of thinking, but not so much doing over the last couple of weeks. So that's my plan for next time. I'm going to concentrate on different ways of using fabric manipulation. Oh, and the other, I haven't got them easy to hand, but I wanted to use some of the gorgeous, I got a pack of cantha stitched silk from Bazaar. So a lot of the fabrics that I've used, all of these have come from Bazaar scrap packs. They also now do cantha stitched silk and cantha stitched cotton packs. I'll link to Bazaar as well. And they do send all over the world. You can order direct now. You don't even have to kind of email them or anything. You could actually order via the website now, so that's good. But yeah, I wanted to use some of the cantha stitch pieces because of course they've always got two sides to them. One of the difficulties for me using cantha stitch pieces is I want both sides to show because they're both beautiful, so I don't like just stitching them flat. You lose one side. So I thought a perfect chance to use these would be in another kind of fabric manipulation. I think maybe Viviana did it in one of her fish, so we'll have a look in a second, where you layer lots of different fabrics, stitch them down and then cut between or tear between so that you can lift them up and show. I can't describe it. The best thing is if I show you next time, and let's have a look, see if I can find it on one of the photos that I've got of Viviana's beautiful work. Here we go. So you can kind of see what I mean there. Hopefully that will show, where you've got these different strips of fabric that have then been stitched down the middle and then crumpled up and manipulated to give that lovely feeling of movement to them. And I can see that Viviana stitched little beads and sequins and things in between as well. I think I did check with her at the time, and she said it was something like four. I think she said 4 layers of fabric in that tail. And I just thought, what a perfect way to use some of that cantha stitched fabric and show off both sides of it. You know, I might also use some of it by creating perhaps rocks and things with it that are made to be lifted up with little messages underneath, or little creatures hiding underneath, so that you can still see both sides of the cantha stitched fabric. So yeah, there's all kinds of different ways I want to do that. I love this piece. This is a really good example, this fish, of how Viviana patches together quite small, these using quite small pieces. She uses a lot of Bazaar scrap packs as well. And you can make use of the tiniest scraps patched together to make these gorgeous creatures, and then all the stitching and things that are added. Here's another one, again quite small scraps, and there they are all together in this beautiful scene that she's working on. Here's another way that Viviana has manipulated fabric by gathering it all up, gathering up torn strips of fabric to create the kind of wafty bits of the jellyfish. And here she's working on one of her gorgeous jellyfish, not a jellyfish, anemones are so beautiful, and the way that the fabric is pleated up there, I just love that. I love that effect. Love that tubular stuff she's used for the fronds, whatever you call them. So what I'm going to be working on today is a seahorse. Here's one of Viviana's seahorses. And again, I'm not just looking at the seahorse here, but the way she puts the background together is so inspiring. The way she adds those beads all going up this green strip, those square mother of pearl beads, so beautiful. Another thing to note down here is the way she's clustered the beads together to create the spine of the seahorse. And here's another one. She's layered up lots of different fabrics there. Some of them are sheer fabrics layered over one another. Such a gorgeous effect. Again, you can see quite tiny scraps put together there and all sort of unified with the stitching and beading and things. Yeah. I do have, Viviana sent me this beautiful one of her charms, bag charms. So gorgeous. And it happens to have one of her beautiful seahorses on it. You can see, again, quite tiny scraps of these, because we want to use every bit of the Bazaar fabrics. They're rescued fabrics. The whole point is to be rescuing them from landfill, you know, and making something new and beautiful with them. And so you don't want to waste anything, so these tiniest scraps can be used. I think for my seahorse, I'm going to work as the one that I showed just now. Where did I show the lobster one? Here we go. This is how Viviana works when sometimes she does apply straight to the piece, but sometimes, and this is what I'm going to do today, she works in a frame first in this way, outlines everything with stitching and then fills in with different scraps of fabric. That's how you can use such tiny scraps and really make the most of them. You can see the traced pieces there that she's got that she's going to piece together. She's going to use to cut out the pieces to fill in all of the spaces. Here we are when a little bit more work's gone on, but it's nowhere near finished. So what I'm going to do today is make a start on my seahorse. I'm going to be working in a frame to start with, and then and do quite a bit of it in the frame, and then I will apply it to the background. I need to make a new page, and once I've done that, I'll apply it to the background before I start adding like beads to the spine and dorsal fin, whatever this is, his little wing here. Yeah. So part of it will be done in the frame because it's easier, and then it will be applied, possibly stuffed with a little bit of trapunto, and then I'll add extra beading and these bits, because you have to kind of cut around the shape, so you're not going to be able to, if I did all of this back beading, I could do the beading here that's in the middle of the shape, I suppose, that's within the shape. I could do this beading, but I couldn't do this beading because I can't cut around it and apply it. That'll be done once it's on the background, because a couple of people have said, why have I done it one way one time, one way another time? It depends on what I'm doing. Also depends on how the fancy takes me sometimes. It's generally easier to work with it in a frame, but I don't always like to do that. If I'm slow stitching, I sometimes just like to have it in my hands, you know. It's so nice to have this piece from Viviana to inspire me while I'm working. I'm going to hang it back up now. I'm going to put this all out of the way now. Got this here because I'm going to be needing to use my craft iron. I've dug through my huge collection of Bazaar scraps and pulled out some pieces I want to use for my seahorse. I'm going kind of reds, pinks and oranges, and I've thrown in some quite small scraps, you know, because he's not going to be too big, my seahorse. Even little bits like this I can definitely use. You can see that Viviana uses really quite small pieces. I've picked out a variety of textures. So in the Bazaar scrap packs, the normal, what I call the original scrap bundles, you get all kinds. You get silks, cottons, the odd velvets. I love when you get pieces like this. Yeah, all mainly silks and cottons, and and then the odd kind of brocades and things as well. You can also get packs now that are, like I mentioned earlier, the Cantha silks and Cantha cottons. You can get purely brocades. You can get a texture pack, which looks amazing. I think that's one of the ones I've not had, but I've probably had a good sample of the kind of fabrics you get in it. So yeah, I'll link to Bazaar and you can check out the scrap packs for yourself. So this is the kind of colours I'm going with for my Seahorse. I have got an enormous amount of sequins and beads and things to use as well. Here's my bag this is my fabric bowl, fabric vessel that Cass made me, and also my Maggie Morris inspired bag, which I use all the time. Now I'm hoping in here, yes, here it is. I've got this kind of, I think I must have had this as like a gift ribbon. It's a wired cord, and I'm hoping I can use this combined with some sheer kind of pearlescent fabric, iridescent fabric that I've got to make his kind of wing, back dorsal fin, whatever that is. So I'm going to be using some of that, but not yet. I've got to do the main part first. Got a good selection of threads in there, all different weights and textures of threads. Don't need that quite yet, but I've got it handy. Because I'm going to be working on quite small pieces this time, and I need this shape to be quite precise, I think I'm going to use the Heat and Bond light again. I did try this out a couple of videos ago in this project, but it's quite pricey, this stuff, but I'm only going to need such a small amount of it. It's quite a small piece, and I think this is where this is going to really come into its own. But if you didn't want to get that, I've also got this very inexpensive, super lightweight iron-on interfacing, so it's got, like, you can feel a textured side on one side. That side's got little dots of glue that activate with heat, so you just iron it onto the back of your fabric, and it just stabilizes the fabric. And the reason I'm using those is that with the silks particularly, and the fine cottons and brocade that I'm going to be using, silk will tend to move about a lot as you're trying to cut it. So if you're trying to get precise shapes, it's quite difficult. It will also fray away at the edges. The brocades will fray away at the edges. So with the cottons are easier, but some of these fine cottons that I want to use will move about like the silk. So this will just kind of stabilise it and make it much easier to precisely arrange the little shapes that I'm going to be working with. And the other thing I need is my Seahorse template. And I'm going to go for it this size, I think. It will mean that he'll look quite big in my background, but he's going to be on to the next page, and I think your brain will just assume that he's more in the foreground than the octopus is. I could do him that size. That's probably about the same size-ish as the one that Viviana's got on her charm. And I probably will do one. I'd like to do a charm as well, but I think I want to have just a bit more scope to play with this one, so I'm going to go for this size. So this is one of the templates in the Underwater World collection that you can get on my Gumroad. You don't have to have this to do the project. You can probably just draw a seahorse yourself, or find an image online that you can use. Thanks to everybody that has downloaded the templates. It's always appreciated, and it's lovely to see what everybody's doing with them as well. And don't forget, if you're a channel member, don't forget to use the discount because you'll get them free. Now this one, I've printed it at 75% because I didn't want it full size. It would have been just too big for my pieces. You can print it, we've arranged the templates so you can have them up to like huge size. If you want to just make one huge stunning seahorse, you could definitely do that, but this was the A4 size but printed at 75%, and that one was 50%. A4 nearest in America is letter paper, and I'm going to work on some plain calico. So this is what I've been using as the base for my pages as well. I've got this handy dandy frame. A few people have asked about this frame and where did I get it. I've got it on Amazon. You can get it in other countries as well because a few people have checked for me. And I paid about, it was something like £12.50 for it, something like that. was it £13.50? Anyway, it's blooming brilliant, and you've got a big frame on one side and a smaller frame on the other, and it just it's handy for filming as well, because it just holds itself up like that, so I can keep my hands free, and it just keeps it a little nearer the camera, so it's perfect. I hope that this is gonna, yes, it will just about fit in there if I use the big end. Okay, I'm going to get myself set up, and then I'll be back. I'm all I've got everything out I need, I think. So I've got my template ready. I've got a piece of heat and bond. You need to, if you're going to do this, make sure you get the light so that you can, otherwise you can't hand sew through it. Which is what I'm intending. I've got my piece of calico. I've got my frame is just down here by my side. And the first thing I'm going to do is trace my Seahorse onto my calico. You can see, hopefully, you can see that I can see through that well enough to trace the outline. I'm going to use a heat erasable pen. Don't think it's actually going to matter that much, really. That it's heat erasable, because you're not going to see the stitching in the end, but it's what I've got handy here anyway, so I could take the edges down if I wanted to, but I'm not going to worry too much about it. I'll be back when this is done. There we go, he's all drawn out and in my frame ready. I didn't bother, as you can see, I didn't bother to do all of his kind of grid lines, because I'm going to be putting fabric over those anyway. They're more as guidelines for my stitching later on, so I didn't worry about those. And I also just scooted over, I didn't draw around the wing part, because I'm going to be doing that as a separate freestanding thing, so I just sort of did a scallop line along there. Now I'm going to take the heat and bond, and you can see that I can see through that as well. I'm not going to draw the whole thing in one piece on this heat and bond though. I'm going to divide this image into smaller pieces and cut them out of the heat and bond separately, leaving a margin around them. You'll see why I'll explain as I go along. So I'm just going to section off various parts. I'm going to do this part, and then the front part of this upper part of the body and the back part separately. I'm going to leave out the dorsal fin. I'm going to do these two pieces separately, and the tail. The reason for that will become apparent as I go along. Now I need to be careful not to use a heat erasable pen here, because when I iron this onto the fabric it will disappear. I'm going to use a pencil actually. So be as economical as I can with this stuff, because you know, I want to make it go as far as possible. I want to leave a margin around each piece. That'll just make my job easier later on. So I'm just going to draw around this face shape first. Now, because I'm not being super accurate, I might find later on that these pieces don't exactly match the outline that I've got on my background, but any little anomalies like that can be filled in with stitching and beading and stuff, so I'm not worrying about that either. I'm not doing both pieces because I'll just put a sequin or something in the middle for that. And then I want to do this front section, I'm going to do separately, but I don't want to end up with this silly little point here. I think that could be a bit too fiddly, so I'm just going to carry it on across part of the face. I'll just carry it across into part of the face like that. It doesn't matter what shape it ends up, because that's going to be underneath. And I'm going to carry it down to here. So all the way up there. I'm just going to do that. And this little part will be hidden by the face. Again, I need to leave just a border around that, so let's move over to here. So for this back part of the body, I'll go again down to there, to where the tail starts, to here. I'm not going around the dorsal fin, so I'll just make up a couple of scallop shapes aligned with these grid lines across here. It's not crucial, I'm not going to worry about it. And now I'm going to go around this inner kind of crest around the head. Go around that shape. Again, because I don't want a silly fiddly shape, I'm just going to continue that around, just round off that line there. But this section will be hidden by the face. So that's the back body part. I've still got this other crest to do, and again I'm not going to I'm not going to bother cutting a silly triangle there. Oops, there. And these little silly bits. Because that would just be too fiddly. So what I will do is take it down to sort of here. Follow the scallops up, ignore that overlying one. Now this now aligns, this is now going to overlap with this piece, but it's fine. I'll just take it down to kind of there. You see what I mean? And now I've just got the tail piece to do. Let's overlap this slightly again. There we go. So that will just overlap a little bit. Right, I think I've got all my pieces cut. So I'm going to use just my paper scissors to do this. I cut each of these pieces out and carefully put this away because that's plenty to use for something else. So I'm going to cut each of these pieces out with the border around them. Enough of a border so that once this has been ironed onto the fabric, I can then accurately cut the shape. Because otherwise, if I cut this out exactly and ironed it onto the fabric and then tried to cut the fabric to match it, that would be much more fiddly. You'll see what I mean? We'll cut them all in one go and it will be a lot easier. But I don't want to make so much of a border that it's wasteful on the fabric either, so it's a bit of a balance there. So I'm going to cut these all out and get my craft iron heated up ready, and then I'll be back. My iron is all heated up. I've cut out all my pieces and decided which fabrics I'm going to use for each section. I've also realised I was a bit daft getting this in the hoop ready because I've still got to iron the pieces onto this, so I'm going to have to take it out the hoop to do that, but never mind, I'll be fine. So it's a medium heat iron and no steam, and if you've got a right and wrong side of the fabric, you want to iron these onto the wrong side, and you need to make sure you've got this paper side up, so you've got this shiny gluey side and then you've got the paper side. You want paper side up unless you want to ruin your iron. Let's iron this on as economically as possible. I've already got spare, I don't need any more spare. And this is just, you just hold the iron on it for 2 seconds. But you've got to make sure you get the whole surface. So 1, 2. Now this is silk and it's a medium iron. You'd normally use like a cool iron for silk, wouldn't you? But in practice I found that it doesn't seem to do any harm. Bit more worried about this one that's got metallic running through it. I might have an issue there, but if it gets a bit crinkly, that'll just add to the effect for this. And then again 1, 2. Let's see if it looks like that's stuck. Ah, now I forgot, last time I found that a little bit, especially with these quite sheer fabrics, a little bit of the stickiness kind of went. It's not left it sticky as such, but I had to sort of peel that off, and I think if I did a lot of this over time it might ruin the surface. So what I did last time was just use a piece of baking parchment, so I'll do that again. Just make sure that does look stuck. Yeah, that seems pretty well stuck. Front body shape. No, back body shape. 1, 2. 1, 2. You can see it, well, you probably can't see, but it's sort of slightly sticking itself to that paper. I think because this is such a light sheer fabric, the silk, probably wouldn't find that with cotton. Here's my face piece. Probably do that all in one go. 1, 2, and the last piece is my tail, and this is one I'm a little bit worried about using the iron on this metallic, but 1, 2, 1, 2. That seems stuck. So I'm not going to use my very best fabric scissors for this. I'm using my second best fabric scissors because I'm cutting paper here as well. But now it's much easier to accurately cut round both layers at once. Otherwise, if I'd have cut the heat and bond to the exact shape and then tried to cut the fabric to match it, well, for a start I'd be having to do the accurate cutting twice, and also I just don't think it would be possible to be that accurate. So I'm now going to cut around all these pieces and then take my backing fabric out of the hoop again. What a plonker. And then I can iron these pieces onto the backing. Mistake number 2. I'm going to have a whole series of these cock-ups included videos. So what I realised was I used the template the same way round to draw onto my background, and also to draw onto my heat and bond, which then got flipped to go onto the reverse of the fabric. So basically I'm not going to be doing my seahorse this way round, it needs to be that way round. So I've just held it up against the window and just traced through enough of the image. I don't need the whole of the image there really, this is just to guide me for the placement of these pieces. So what I will need to do is put them in the right order so that the right ones kind of overlap. They don't fit exactly to my template, to what I've drawn on here, it's not going to matter. I missed that back crest. I did do that. What's happened to that? I'm going to have to do that again. Had another check in the bin. There it was. The piece that I'd drawn out originally. So that's all done now. I decided to do it on this tail, on the same fabric as this tail. So what I need to do now is just make sure which pieces to put first. So this piece needs to go on first. This piece layers over it. Then this piece. Then the face over all of them. Tail needs to go underneath these two pieces. So yeah, just need to have a think about how those go down. So what you have to do now is to apply a piece, you peel off the paper backing, press the not quite sticky side, kind of tacky feeling side, plasticky feeling side down to the fabric, and iron for 6 seconds this time. And this is where I will feel a little bit about especially the metallic ones, but let's hope it goes okay. As I say, if it wrinkles them up a little bit, I'm not going to worry too much because it'll just add to the effect for this. So I've got my medium heat iron, no steam again. And now I just got to peel off his backing. It's a little bit fiddly to get a start sometimes. There we go, got it. And the great thing about this is, if I show you, I've got an extra little piece there where I had used it for one of the other, for the tail. So yeah, it's kind of got like a, it's not sticky as such, it kind of feels more like plasticky. But the great thing is that for a start it stabilises it, the shape isn't moving all over the place, and also you can see it's not fraying, which is great. I'm going to stitch it down anyway, but sometimes these kind of fabrics are such a nightmare to work with all the fraying and warping, and this stops all that. So I can place this down now. It doesn't fit exactly because I've not cut very well. Fairly typical of me really. So that'll go there. Let's just have a little practice run. It's fine, it'll do. Where I seem to have missed a bit somehow, I'm going to, I will fill that in with stitching, so it'll be fine. So I'm going to be very tentative with this fabric, with this heat. Let's just hold it down for a minute just to tack it in place. You need to get it hot enough to activate the glue, but you don't want to burn the fabric. What I might do is just be a little bit careful with them and then turn the whole thing over and iron from the other side as well, because that'll also help to activate the glue. See, I've now lost, because I've applied heat there, I've now lost my guidelines, haven't I? See, I probably, because the pen marks aren't going to show in the end, I think in hindsight I should have done this with the pencil as well rather than with the heat erasable pen. It doesn't need to be heat erasable because there's going to be so much fabric and stitching over it, it's not going to show anyway. And the fact that it's erasing with the heat now isn't helping my case. Another cock-up included. Okay, and you can see, can't you, there? I think you can anyway. Despite the fact that it's got that heat and bond on it, you can see my hand through it still. So the silk isn't losing that transparent quality. You can still overlay it on other colours and they'll show through, and it's still got that kind of luster of the silk, which I love. Yeah, I really not doing a great job of showing how to do this because I'm making all the mistakes. Sometimes that's good. You can I'm making a mistake so you don't have to. I'm thinking that's going to work if I do it like that. So I'm going to carry on placing all these pieces. This little face is starting to come out now, look. Okay, that's tacked it down enough. It's nice that because this isn't sticky as such, you can fiddle around for a bit, making sure you got it placed right before you actually stick. So I've kind of gone, no, these don't match up anymore. I'm not giving that any worry. Kind of feeling like that would match up with there. So I'm just doing like we did in the first place, the 2 seconds to tack it into place, and I'll do more ironing from the back. I think that is probably a good way forward. Just got my little face and my eye to go on now, and I didn't bother stitching the outline like Viviana had done, because I think with placing these pieces in this way, cutting, using the heat and bond or the iron-on interfacing, it's not so necessary. It's a sort of an unnecessary step for the way I'm doing it. So yeah, if you didn't want to use the heat and bond, you could use the double-sided interfacing. I've got some pieces here with, this is where I've used double-sided interfacing before, and again you can see it's still, the fabric still stays quite soft and nice and not quite sheer, but you can see my fingers moving beneath it, and it doesn't sort of take away from the kind of luster of the silk or the colours or anything. And in this case, it would still help to stabilise it, stop it warping the shape and stop it fraying. But of course it wouldn't stick to the fabric as this has now. But you could easily arrange the pieces and tack them into place and then do the decorative stitching. So my Seahorse is almost there now. Just going to put this eye on. And you can see even a tiny piece like this, which would be a bit of a nightmare to manage with silk usually. There's no fraying or anything with it. It is really good for that. Hardly even shows now really, but you can see it'll give me a guideline. So now my plan is that I will turn it over and iron a little bit more from this side just to be sure. So I'll make sure that glue is fully activated. It's not applying direct heat for too long onto these delicate fabrics. Here we go. Let's check all so you can see now all the edges. If there are any edges that aren't fully stuck down, you can go back over them. But you can see all those edges are nicely adhered to my fabric, my backing fabric. And there is a stiffness to it, especially there where I've got several layers. That's going to be harder to stitch through for sure. So if you don't want that, then I would say the iron-on interfacing would be better. This has got more stiffness to it because there's more glue. So here where I've only got one layer of it, Yeah, fine. There's more resistance, but not too much more. Here I've got 2 layers overlapped. Yeah, a bit more, but it's not impossible. Here, yeah, definitely more resistance there, but it's not impossible to sew through. It's not leaving any sticky residue on the needle at all, which is brilliant. But I'm ready now to start my decorative stitching. Let's get this back on this hoop. I do love these hoops. I like the way that, because it's they've made it so the nut there fits into that little space. You don't have to hold the other end, you can just, it kind of holds itself while you turn the wing nut. It's just really easy to tighten up. I like that. So probably if I wanted to, yeah, definitely, it's still see-through enough that I could have held this up against the window or used a light box and redraw the lines, the guidelines, if I wanted to. The first thing I'm going to do is stitch around the outlines, and I'll just follow the outlines that I've got in these fabrics. And then I will do these lines across as well. So if I look at my template for a guide, I've got lines across here. It's just a gentle curved, as I say, you could trace it if you wanted to, but they're really just a gentle curved line from point to point. That was a bit skew if, doesn't matter, it's fine, it's fine. You'd probably even just risk stitching it without drawing them first, but I'll enjoy the stitching more if I haven't got to think too hard about it. And because these are all heat erasable, I can just, of course, run a hairdryer over it or whatever to get rid of them if they still show. I think by the time I've done all of the stitching that I've got planned, they ain't going to show anyway. But okay, I'm going to get some threads out now and then I'll be back. Do a little bit of this with you, not too much, because like it's going to be pretty basic at this stage. I'll add some beads, I think, like whoops, like Viviana has done here. I'll add some beads down the where I've made this join here, but these beads down the back there, I would do beads like that or like this. They'd be better done once they're on the piece, really. So yeah, the stitching on this, although it looks so elaborate, it's pretty straightforward. She's more or less just followed these lines like I've just drawn on here. She's done the downward lines as well. I'm not going to do too many of the downward lines, I don't think. I might change my mind. And she just followed the outline around. She's done a bead in the centre of the eye. And then these beads here, so it's pretty straightforward. I like these little clusters of like 3 beads along the kind of crest there, so I'll definitely be doing that. But again, that'll be these ones on these sort of inner crest I could do on the hoop, but these outer ones I'll do once it's applied to the piece. Right, I've decided the first thing I'm going to do is outline all of these with a whipped backstitch, because I think that'll be easier to cut around when I want to cut it off of here and apply it to my background. So I'm going to all of the outlines of each of the individual pieces and these kind of skeleton bits across here, all of those are going to be outlined with a whipped backstitch. I'm going to use quite a fine thread to start with, but I'm going to use chunkier and brighter ones maybe later, and beading as well. So I've got these lovely threads. These are, I believe they were hand dyed. These came in a lovely little travel sewing kit that Cass made for me and brought all the way from Australia. And I thought this one has got bits of the oranges and pinks and little bits of the green as well, which picks up in some of the pattern on the fabric and also will work nicely with the background. So, and it's quite fine, this, so I can use a fine needle with it. And I'm just gonna do some happy back stitching. So I don't really need to worry about attaching this to the fabric. The heat and bond has done that, and the stitching across here will do that also, and the stitching here, the beading and things. So for this I'm just outlining. I'm not going to worry about going into, I'm just going into the surrounding calico. I want these to be quite small, neat stitches, I think, for me. Small and neat for me. Oops, tangled angle already. And when I cut around the outline, I'll cut as close as I dare to this stitching, and then when I apply it to the background, I'll do an outline chain stitch all around the shape as well, and that will cover any edges of this background fabric. I did try using Inktense along the edges of my octopus piece, and it kind of worked okay, but I still found I needed to cover the background anyway, so I'm not going to bother doing it this time, because the downside of that was that it made it harder to follow my outlines. So yeah, I'm just going to do a whole lot of small, neat, very relaxing backstitch, which is going to be extremely boring to watch, so I'm going to skip through to where I've done this, and I'll whip a bit of it. I'm thinking maybe I'll do chain stitch across those struts. As in the template, I've got upright lines along here as well. So what I could do is do the upright lines in a whipped chain stitch and the cross lines in a wrong way around. The upright lines in a whipped back stitch and the cross lines in a whipped chain stitch instead, so they stand out a little bit more. We'll see how I go. Okay, I have finished stitching all the way around, and I've done around the face as well. And you can see I've gone a bit wibbly wobbly on the face there, around here. But I'm going to whip this back stitch now, so it's not gonna. That will smooth it out. And time I've done all the other work on it, you ain't gonna see that anyway. So to whip the stitch, I'll use this thread that's on my needle. I'll probably use the wrong end of the needle so that I don't split the thread. Just makes it a little bit easier. I'm going to work right to left. You can do it whichever way you like. It looks better if you stay consistent. And I'm just going to go under the stitch that I've already done, not into the fabric, just under the stitch. And you can see as I'm doing that, it's giving the line more emphasis, and it's smoothing it out. And it looks more like one solid line than a stitched line. So let's see how it looks if I go around this really wibbly wobbly part. I'm hoping this will help to smooth that out. Let's see, it's a good test. It proved to be just slightly more of an effort stitching through these several layers of fabric that I've got here, but really not that much, and certainly no even hint of stickiness on the needle. So now this is where sometimes there's an exception to that always going left to right, because the curve's now changed direction. I'm actually going to go left to right for a couple of these. I just find that seems to work better for me. There we go. Now I'll go back to the right to left. So you can see that's really smoothed out. Even that wibbly wobbly part don't look so bad now. I'm going to do that all around the outline as well, and then I'm going to do these cross pieces. And I'm going to do a chain stitch around the crest and these downward pieces. So where that line is, where I use the different colour fabrics, and then I've drawn back in, just free-handed it with a heat erasable pen. Just followed the line of that one that where I used the two different fabrics. Just followed that line and put two more lines back in. You can see where all around the outline I've done that small chain stitch. Back stitch. You can hardly see it at some points, because of that variegated thread, sometimes it's matching so well you can hardly see the stitch, but it will become more obvious once I've whipped it, as I have with that piece there. So yeah, I'm going to carry on and do that. It's not actually taking me that long. I'm still about an hour. Well, I'm getting on fairly well here. I've done some chain stitch around that crest and then whipped it to make it more substantial. Stitched around the eye. I haven't whipped that yet, so I'm going to do a bit of chain stitch down these kind of spines, and I think I'm probably then going to leave this video here and do a bit more stitching on it and beading on it next time, and taking it off of the cutting it off the background. Yeah, I'll add some next time. I'll add some beads and make the kind of, you know, dorsal fin, wing, whatever you want to call it, for the back. A bit more decorative stitching as well. There's so much you can do. You could put lots of French knots in and little tiny beads around the face. They look nice. I might do some of that. I think I'll put a sequin and a bead in the middle to create a kind of pupil for his eye. It still looks quite sort of skinny at the moment. Some of them are quite skinny, but by the time he's also got the dorsal fin on, and once I've stitched him onto the a background, he'll have a line of chain stitch all around him as well. That will make him look fatter. Yes, I'm going to keep on doing this chain stitch to create the spines. So there'll be one line there, one there down where I've done the two different fabrics, and another one here that I've sketched in. Then all of these horizontal lines will be done in whipped back stitch as well. I could also, instead of whipping the chain stitch on these ones, what I could do is stitch a small bead into the space in every chain stitch. I think I might do that instead. I think it'd be really fun. So I will come back and finish this off with you next time. Meanwhile, I'll do a bit more work on my background and get my different fabrics and things ready for a bit of fabric manipulation. So I want some velvets, silks, chiffons. So I'll rummage through I'm mostly using the Bazaar scrap packs, but I've also got some lovely things that people have given me as well, like that doily I showed earlier on. So yeah, finished all the basic stitching now. So I've done these lines of chain down there, which I'll probably end up beading. I've done lots of lines of the whipped back stitch down there. So that's all the kind of basic structure there, and now next time I've just got all the fun of doing some decorative stitching, adding the beads and things. Yeah, really all the fun part. And of course I will be using my at least I hope this is going to work, wired cord here as a framework, and some kind of sheer fabric to create the dorsal fins at the back. So yeah, that's it for now. I'm just going to make my little thumbnail here. Yeah, that's really good. That's worked out really well. And it'd be quite fun to try some others in different sizes. And I think if you did a huge one, you could have a lot of fun stitching different things into each of these little compartments that you end up creating. And it's nice that just with those lines of whipped back stitch, you've got a lovely kind of ridged texture there. It's really nice, actually. Yeah, well happy with that. That's it for today. You can see it's dark outside now. It's time I stopped. Next time I'll be finishing the Seahorse, and I will have gathered together some fabrics to have a go at a bit of fabric manipulation in different ways to create other bits and pieces for my background coral and things. I'll link to the playlist for the rest of the videos in this little series if you want to catch up on them, and also to Create and Craft with Christine, who I mentioned as well, and a couple of other YouTubers I know who've been following along with this project. That's it for me for now. It's been nice to spend an afternoon with you, so thanks for coming along, and I'll see you again really soon. Bye.